The United States has a lake that could swallow entire countries, a desert that kills in under an hour, at supervolcano that, if it went off tomorrow, would end agriculture across the continent. Most people think they know this country's geography. They don't. Not even close. No plan. No preparation that actually works. It's number 1 on this list, and it's sitting under a national park right now. The US spans 3,000 miles coast to coast, and in that distance, it contains every climate zone on Earth. Tropical rainforest in Hawaii, Arctic tundra in Alaska, full desert in the Southwest, temperate jungle in the Pacific Northwest. No other country on Earth contains every climate type within its own borders. Most nations get 1, maybe 2. America got all of them, which is why the US military can deploy to literally any environment on the planet and train for it at home. No other country can say that. The 5 Great Lakes hold 21% of all the surface fresh water on Earth. Not US freshwater. All freshwater on the entire planet. They're so large, they generate their own weather systems, including lake-effect snowstorms that can dump 6 feet of snow on a single city in 48 hours. These aren't lakes in any normal sense. They are inland seas, and they supply drinking water to over 40 million people in the US and Canada, making the Great Lakes Basin one of the most strategically valuable geographic assets on the planet. Multiple countries have already quietly lobbied to renegotiate water access rights. The negotiations are ongoing. Death Valley holds the highest reliably recorded air temperature on Earth, 134 degrees Fahrenheit, measured in 1913. At that temperature, your sweat evaporates before it reaches the surface of your skin. Your body's cooling system stops working. Exposure without water means death in under 2 hours. And it gets stranger. Death Valley sits 282 feet below sea level, the lowest point in North America, while Mount Whitney, the highest point in the contiguous US, is visible from it on a clear day. The lowest and highest points in the lower 48 are 85 miles apart. And if a desert that can kill you in 2 hours sounds extreme, wait until you hear about the fault line that's been building pressure for 325 years. That's coming up. The Chicago River used to flow into Lake Michigan, which supplies drinking water to millions of people. The city's sewage went with it. So in 1900, engineers reversed the entire river. They made it flow away from the lake instead, using a system of locks and canals. It is one of the only rivers in history deliberately engineered to permanently flow in the opposite direction. Chicago didn't fix its sewage problem. It just redirected it and called it an engineering triumph. Alaska is simultaneously the westernmost, northernmost, and easternmost state in the United States. That last one sounds wrong, but the Aleutian Islands extend so far west that they cross the 181st meridian, putting part of Alaska technically in the eastern hemisphere. 3 hemispheres at once, and it's so large that if you overlaid it on the contiguous US, it would stretch from the Pacific coast to the Atlantic. Alaska alone contains more coastline than every other US state combined. It's not really a state. It's a separate continent that happened to get annexed. The Mississippi River drainage basin covers 1.2 million square miles, roughly 40% of the entire contiguous United States. Rain that falls in Montana eventually flows into the Gulf of Mexico. Rain that falls in New York's southern tier does the same. 31 states and 2 Canadian provinces all drain into one river system. It's not just a river. It's the circulatory system of an entire continent, and everything eventually moves through it. The United States is being ripped open from below in two separate locations. The Rio Grande Rift is slowly pulling New Mexico and Colorado apart. The Basin and Range Province across the southwest is stretching the crust so thin that the land between mountain ranges is actively sinking. The ground in Nevada is measurably wider than it was 30 million years ago. This isn't dormant ancient geology, it's happening right now, centimeters per year, and it's directly responsible for the earthquake swarms that rattle Nevada and New Mexico, with almost no media coverage. The American West isn't just a dramatic landscape, it's a continent in the early stages of breaking apart, and people have built cities on top of the fracture lines. We're halfway through, and we haven't gotten to the underground reservoir that feeds a third of American agriculture, or the fault that could hit a magnitude 9. Keep watching. Beneath 8 states in the Great Plains sits the Ogallala Aquifer, one of the largest underground freshwater reserves on Earth. It supplies 30% of all groundwater used for irrigation in the United States. It took millions of years to fill. Farmers are draining it at a rate 1,300% faster than it naturally recharges. In parts of Kansas and Texas, it's already gone. When the Ogallala runs dry, the agricultural output that feeds a significant portion of the world disappears with it, and there is no replacement plan. The United States experiences more tornadoes than every other country on Earth combined. The geographic reason is specific. Cold, dry air from Canada, warm, moist air from the Gulf of Mexico, and dry air from the Rocky Mountains all collide in the center of a flat, unobstructed continent with nothing to stop them. No mountains, no barriers, just open plains where 3 air masses hit each other at full force. The rest of the world gets occasional tornadoes. America gets a permanent collision zone running through its middle. But all of that, the tornadoes, the heat, the rift zones, is weather and geology you can plan around. What's coming in the top 3? You cannot plan around it. Not even close. Off the coast of the Pacific Northwest, the Juan de Fuca plate is sliding under North America, and it's been locked in place, building pressure for over 300 years. The last time it fully released was 1700. Geologists know exactly when, because the resulting tsunami was recorded in Japanese historical documents. When it goes again, and it will, the projected earthquake is magnitude 9.0 or higher. Seattle, Portland, and Vancouver have roughly 15 minutes of warning before the tsunami arrives. The Pacific Northwest is sitting on a fault that historical record proves will erupt, and hasn't in 325 years. Now here's where it gets interesting. Beneath the Gulf Coast of Texas and Louisiana, there are underground salt domes. Massive underground columns of salt left behind by an ancient ocean that have been dissolving for centuries, creating voids deep below the surface. In 1980, one of these voids collapsed beneath Lake Peigneur in Louisiana. A small oil drilling accident punctured the top of a salt mine below the lake. The entire 1,300-acre lake drained underground in under 3 hours, pulling 11 barges, a tugboat, and a drilling platform down with it. The lake reversed its outflow direction. The waterfall ran backwards. It refilled with salt water from the Gulf. The lake that exists there today is a different body of water than the one that existed that morning. But that's nothing compared to this. The Colorado River carved the Grand Canyon, one of the deepest gorges on Earth, 277 miles long and over a mile deep. For millions of years, it flowed from the Rocky Mountains all the way to the Gulf of California. Today, it doesn't make it. The river is so heavily diverted for agriculture and city water across 7 states that it runs completely dry before reaching the ocean. The Colorado River Delta in Mexico, once a lush wetland the size of Rhode Island, is now desert. The communities that relied on it for centuries have no water. One of the most powerful rivers on the continent now disappears into sand, 90 miles short of the sea, because every drop was allocated to cities that are still growing. Las Vegas, Phoenix, Los Angeles. They are all built on a river that doesn't have enough water to reach the ocean anymore. Hold on, because this is where it gets genuinely strange. Most Americans think the big earthquake threat is California, but the most dangerous seismic zone in the contiguous U.S. may be buried under Missouri, Arkansas, and Tennessee. The New Madrid seismic zone produced 4 of the largest earthquakes in recorded North American history in 1811 and 1812. So powerful, they rang church bells in Boston, caused the Mississippi River to flow backwards temporarily, and were felt from Canada to the Gulf Coast. The fault sits directly beneath some of the least earthquake-prepared cities in the country: Memphis, St. Louis, Little Rock. With infrastructure built for zero seismic activity, it has ruptured before. Geologists say it will again. I saved this for second to last because it sets up what comes next. Yellowstone National Park sits on top of a supervolcano with a magma chamber 45 miles wide. The last 3 eruptions created craters so large the blast zones are measured in states, not miles. The most recent full eruption, 640,000 years ago, deposited ash across 2/3 of North America. The ground in Yellowstone has risen and fallen by inches in recent decades as magma shifts beneath it. Entire lakes have tilted, hot springs appear and disappear. The park isn't scenery. It's a pressure valve sitting over one of the largest volcanic systems on Earth, and it is still active. This is the setup. Number 1 is the payoff. Yellowstone has erupted 3 times in the last 2.1 million years, each one larger than the last. Geologists call this pattern a progression. The current eruption cycle is overdue by roughly 100,000 years. If Yellowstone erupts at the scale of its largest historical event, the immediate kill zone covers most of the American West. Volcanic winter would follow, a multi-year drop in global temperatures severe enough to collapse crop yields worldwide. The United States would not function as a country afterward. The global food supply would not recover for years. And sitting beneath a national park in Wyoming, fully active, measurably moving, is the thing that could cause all of it. Every week on this channel, we look at what the land actually does. The mountains that split nations, the rivers that built empires, and the coastlines that explain almost everything. If geography is how you make sense of the world, subscribe and leave a comment. There's always another country that will change the way you see it.